Hey there, I'm Jennifer Valor, productivity coach and your host of the Child Free Biz Cafe, the podcast where child free entrepreneurs redefine success on their terms. In each episode, I sit down with inspiring business owners and creators, exploring their unique journeys, challenges, triumphs, and lessons learned. Passionate about the incredible fulfillment of the child free lifestyle, we'll chat over your favorite coffee or tea in our virtual cafe. From entrepreneurs to artists, we uncover the secrets to success, share practical tips, and celebrate diverse paths in the child free life. Get ready for insightful conversations, empowering stories, and a community that embraces their child free life. This is the Child Free Biz Cafe, where fulfillment and happiness meets entrepreneurship. So if you're a dog lover like me, you're really going to enjoy this episode. Today, I'm talking with Michelle Waitzman, Child Free by Choice, author, language consultant, editor, and writer. She lives with her husband and two rescue dogs. Hey, Michelle, thank you so much for being here today.
I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. So just tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I live in Toronto, Canada, with, as you said, my husband, my two lovely rescue dogs named Marlo and Nuka, who are both about 10 years old. And I spend my days mostly doing writing and editing work for corporations and associations and so on, and plain language training and consulting. And when I get a chance, I write books, nonfiction books.
Awesome. And that's what you've got behind you, right?
Absolutely. So this is my most recent book, Be As Happy as Your Dog. It's subtitled 16 Dog-Tested Ways to Be Happier Using Positive Psychology. That's basically what it's about. It's about making yourself happier by using dogs as a role model.
Oh, I love that. And we're definitely going to be diving more into that in this episode today. So, about some of the concepts and how they relate. I'm really excited to talk about that with you. But first, why did you decide to even write a book or write this particular book?
I think, like anybody who's ever lived with a dog, you find yourself noticing how little it takes to make them happy. Every time it's time to go for a walk, and every time they get food, and every time you come home from somewhere, they're just happy.
Yeah.
And we get so bogged down with stuff that doesn't matter that much, and it stops us from celebrating all these little happy moments in our life.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see what they could teach us.
Oh, so what does make dogs so happy all the time? And what are some things that we can learn from them?
So dogs really don't get bogged down with things outside of what's happening right now. For a dog to be unhappy, they have to be either in pain or hungry or scared of something or lonely or bored. And that's pretty much it. And if you think about it, people, what makes us unhappy? Well, you could go on forever, right? Job pressure, financial pressures, being other people's lives. It just goes on and on. And so dogs don't let that stuff get in the way. They don't worry about whether the other dog has nicer fur than them, right? Or whether they're getting a little bit overweight or any of that stuff. So they just get on with their lives and they just get on with enjoying themselves without getting taken out of the moment all the time, without thinking about something bad that happened last week or worrying about something that might happen next week. I wonder if I have to go to the vet. Your dog is not thinking that. And so that's why dogs are free to be happy all the time and why we get stuck and forget to be happy because we're too busy worrying about other things.
So, what are three things your dogs have taught you the most?
I think one thing is to live in the moment.
Mm.
So by actually stopping yourself from replaying things in your head that are over or ticking off your to-do list for the rest of the month, just be where you are, enjoy what you're doing. When I walk the dogs twice a day and I try to really be there Notice what they're doing, notice what's going on around me, say hi to the other people I see. At this time of year, we're usually out right at sunrise. And if you take a moment and look at the sunrise, you can't help but be sort of in awe of this new day dawning. And it is something that slides by a lot of people. They're looking at their phone, or they're looking somewhere else, or they're thinking of something else. And you have to remember to come back to where you are and what you're actually doing.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's one thing, is living in the moment. I think another thing they teach us, and in the book I call it wag your tail. When dogs are happy about something, they show you, right? They wag their tail. Interestingly, one of the things I learned when I was researching is that dogs don't wag their tail when there's nobody there to see it. People think, oh, dog's happy, their tail wags. No, they're actually communicating. If they're in an empty room and they're playing with a toy or something, tail doesn't wag. It's only if there's people or dogs or somebody there to see. So they're actually communicating when they wag their tail. They're taking a moment to celebrate something. And I think we tend not to, right? Or we think we have to save up celebrating for really big things. You celebrate your birthday, you celebrate a new job, but lots of good stuff happens every day.
Oh, yeah.
And if you stop and maybe tell someone, oh, I said something at the meeting and they're going to actually do it, or things like that, or hey, my hair worked today, or any little thing. I got through my whole workout. It's all good stuff. And when you take the time to notice that something good happened, it kind of puts it further into your brain so that it has more of an effect on your mood. And the more you notice the good things, the more you feel happy about them. So that's another thing they can teach us, is to celebrate that stuff. Put a little Post-it note on your monitor that said, hey, you were awesome at that meeting this morning.
Oh, yeah, that'd definitely be a good confidence booster for me.
So that's the kind of stuff that I picked up from dog behavior that I think we can apply to our everyday lives. You don't have to change your whole life around. You just have to make these tiny little changes in how you react to things.
Responses to big or small things makes the whole difference to the day. This is recorded on a Monday, so I personally love Mondays. Tail is wagging. It is. I'm excited. Fresh start. I'm excited to talk with you and others today. So it's just being in the moment and excited for what you get to do that day, another day to be alive.
And I think when it comes to being happy, people think if you ask people in general what would make them happier, what would make them have a happy life, and they'd say things like making a lot more money, or losing a bunch of weight, or meeting the love of their life, or whatever. And there's been research done on this, and that's actually not what makes people happy in the long run. We adapt to new situations really quickly. Yeah. So even if you doubled your salary this year, you would get used to having that money within a year. You'd be like, it wouldn't make you happy anymore. Mm-hmm. So 50% of how happy we feel is genetic. You inherit it. 10% is that other stuff, the stuff like your situation that you live in, circumstances beyond your control, whether you have money, whether you have privilege, whether you have that sort of stuff. That's 10%. People think it's a lot more. 40% of how happy you are on a day-to-day basis is determined by your attitude and the actions you take. So people think, oh, I just need to do this and then I'll be happy. But no, happiness is not a destination that you get to. It's a way that you live.
It's absolutely a way of life. Part of the lifestyle. It's any lifestyle, really.
So people think, I'll be happy when? And the response I would give them is, well, be happy now.
Right. Yeah.
Don't wait for something to happen that will make you happy. Make yourself happy.
Oh, absolutely. So when it comes to happiness and fulfillment outside of parenthood, being child-free, what are some of the things that make our lives fulfilling? that make us truly happy?
So the positive psychology research is really interesting on this stuff, what makes people fulfilled. And one of the things they talk about is something called flow. And flow, if you have a hobby or if you're lucky enough to have a job that you really love, and you get that feeling where you're so into it that you lose track of time or you forget to eat or that sort of thing. If you're doing an activity like that, that's one of the most powerful sources of happiness that we have, right? It's self-fulfilling. You feel like you're accomplishing something. And so personal accomplishment makes us happy. Helping other people makes us happy, right? Anything you do where you feel like you're of service to someone else. There's been a lot of studies that have shown that doing something for other people makes you happier than having somebody do something for you. So I think, oh, somebody did something nice for me, that should make me happy. But actually, you'll be happier if you do something for someone else.
I wonder if there's a whole ordeal with people pleasing into that too.
For sure. Other things are things like being willing to accept praise from other people, which a lot of people have problems with. They were raised to be humble. And so they think when somebody compliments them, what they're supposed to do is say something negative about themselves or downplay it, right? Oh, wasn't that big a deal. I didn't do that much. I had a lot of help. But accepting that you deserve praise and just saying thank you, that can really boost your mood. Not feeling guilty about somebody noticing you did something well is important. And another one of the things I talk about in the book, I have a chapter on enjoying treats, right? Because dogs, you offer them a treat, they'll enjoy it. They're not going to feel guilty about it. They're not going to say, oh, but I already had a treat today, right? They're going to take it. And we tend to make rules around treats. I can only have the treat if I do this first. I can only have the treat if I haven't had it in the past month. I can only, and we set ourselves up and say, oh, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve a treat. I haven't earned it yet. But treats are not necessarily bad for you. Getting massage is a treat. It's not bad for you.
No.
It costs a little money, but it's good for you. Even food treats, if you enjoy foods that are not bad for you, they're still treats, right? I mentioned the book. For me, living in Canada, summer's pretty short, and I love watermelon. Love watermelon. It's yummy. It's delicious. Yeah. It's not bad for you, but it's still a treat for me because it's come and gone within a couple of months. The season's over here. So I'm like, that's a real treat for me. This treat I don't have to feel bad about. And so it's so allowing yourself to enjoy things. And I put it in instead of saying a treat is good or bad, I say, is a treat worth it or not worth it?
Oh, okay.
If it's bad for you, but you absolutely get so much pleasure from it, then it's probably worth it once in a while, right?
It's okay to indulge sometimes.
Whereas if there's something else that maybe somebody offers you something and you're like, well, that would be a treat, but actually I'm not that into it. So it wouldn't be worth the downside to me to have this treat. So I'm like, when a treat comes your way, do a little, is this worth it or not worth it?
Right. That makes sense. Along the line of food, though, food is an indulgence, but I like good food. I like to take my time and eat it and really enjoy it and appreciate the work and love that went into making it, even if it is myself.
Well, and that's another thing that gives people happiness is savoring.
Yes.
Because again, we get distracted. How many people eat while they're at their desk reading something on their screen, or while they're checking their phone, or while they're thinking about something else and just shoveling the food into their mouth? Savoring, whether it's your food or any other experience you're having, taking your time, being aware of what you're doing, tasting the flavors, smelling the smells, that will give you so much more pleasure out of the experience.
Oh, yes.
so that a meal becomes an event instead of just something that you have because it's time. It's time to eat.
Right.
I will eat. So
Especially
take,
when you have to deal with the dishes afterwards.
but this is the thing. Don't spend your time eating going, oh God, there's so many dishes I'm going to have to do.
Right.
Eat, enjoy, and then
Deal with
face
them
the
later.
dishes.
So those of us who are child free and do enjoy or don't mind the responsibility of a pet, especially a dog,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of relationship, the owner pet relationship, just mentally, emotionally, how does living with a dog just enrich your overall child-free lifestyle?
And I think a lot of people who are child free, whether they're dog people or cat people or whatever, having a pet gives you an outlet for that nurturing part of yourself. Maybe you don't want children, but you still feel like I'd love to have something to project my nurturing onto. And pets allow us to do that. And they allow us to feel responsibility for something. And they allow us to feel what we're doing matters to someone. Because you can get quite isolated in a child free lifestyle. You can feel like, oh, well, when I die, will it even have mattered that I was here?
Right.
Right? Because you're not passing on that genetic whatever. Especially if you're surrounded by people who are like, oh, having a child was the most meaningful thing I've ever done. And you're, no. And I get it. But I think having something that depends on you, whether it's a dog or a cat or a hamster or a bird, it gives another aspect to your life. It gives you that feeling that you're the center of someone's universe.
So share a little bit about your child-free story.
Sure. So I think, like most people, when I was younger in high school, sort of assumed that I would get married and have kids and that would be my life because that's what everybody seemed to do. But my first long-term relationship, we never even talked about having kids. I think we both sort of knew that it wasn't a forever relationship,
Hmm.
even though we lived together for several years. And after that, when I was mostly single, it was a long time between that relationship and my next really long-term relationship. I think I asked myself the questions a lot of child-free people might, like, do I want to consider raising a child by myself if I don't find the right person? If I don't have a child, will I feel like I'm missing out? And as time went on, I think I came to the realization that I didn't have that burning desire to be a mom, that it wasn't a priority for me. And I just made peace with that there were going to be some disappointed parents, but I wasn't going to feel disappointed. And I wasn't going to feel like my life was meaningless. And so that's sort of how I got there. And by the time I met my now husband, we were both in that place where we thought, no, having a child just isn't for me.
Right.
And it was something we discussed very early in the relationship, which I think is important because there's no compromise on whether you have kids or not.
Hmm.
There's no halfway. So you really have to be on the same page about that.
Oh, absolutely. Do you think that because we make such pro-con kind of decision with that kind of lifestyle, did you notice that did you also do the kind of similar thing when you decided to have pets?
I grew up with dogs and I always
Mm,
wanted to have dogs, or at least a dog. I almost adopted one on my own some many years ago, and it fell through. And in retrospect, that was a good thing. I wasn't ready.
gotcha. Yeah.
I was in my late 20s and I lived in a condominium, and I don't think I really understood how it would change my life and how much of my freedom I'd be giving up.
Right.
So yeah, we waited until we had a house with a backyard and all that sort of stuff. And it's a big decision and it's a big responsibility. And the shelters are currently overflowing with animals where people made the wrong decision. They thought, we're home all day during the pandemic and we need a dog. And then they went back to work and they went, oh, the dog's still a lot of work. We still have to walk it, and we still have to take it to the vet, and we still have to, and it gets upset when we're gone all day. And so it is a big responsibility, and it is a long-term responsibility. Some dogs live 15, 16 years, not to mention cats live longer, and parrots live longer than that. Parrots can live 50 or 60 years, apparently.
That's crazy.
I don't know who wants to take on that responsibility, certainly not me. But yeah, so it is a big decision to have a pet in your life.
Yeah.
And I think it has to be taken seriously. And when you're living a child-free lifestyle, if you love to go on trips and you love to go out after work and all that sort of thing, you have to think carefully about what kind of pet fits with that lifestyle.
I was looking up, I grew up with cats. They're okay, but I didn't want to take care of them all my life. And then I finally got a dog. I was never allowed to have a dog when I was younger. So as soon as I was able to get one, it was the best thing ever. And I had him for 16 of his 17 years.
Wow.
And I couldn't imagine a life without a pet at this point. And I still can't bring to get another dog, but now I have a free roam pet rabbit in my office. And I feel like I had more freedom with the dog because he loved to go on car rides. We'd go off-roading in the Jeep and things together.
Yeah.
He just loved riding in the car. And the bunny doesn't. So
dogs do offer a lifestyle, right? And also a social life. Like dog people talk to each other like random strangers. If you both have a dog, you're going to talk. It's the equivalent of like the moms in the playground, right? They all talk to each other. But dog people they run into each other in the park. I couldn't even tell you how many people in my neighborhood who I speak to on a regular basis where I know the name of their dog and I don't know their name. And it gets to the point where it's too late to ask because you've been talking to them for the last 3 years. I don't know their name. Anyway, but there is that built-in social life with dogs that I guess doesn't really come along with other pets that don't leave the house with you.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I definitely know I want another dog later on, but knowing my medical situation at the moment, it just doesn't make sense. But hopefully one day soon I'll have another dog. I'm excited about that. So what is one takeaway you want someone to get from our conversation today?
I think the biggest thing I want people to realize is that being happy is within your personal control. That it's a choice you make not once, but every day and every hour of every day. Everything you do is either going to make you happier or less happy. And so if you keep making the choices, and this goes throughout my book, I've got 16 chapters of different ways you can make yourself happier, and you don't have to do them all. And you don't have to do everything in any of the chapters. You just have to find the things that work for you, that work with your lifestyle, that don't make you pretend to be something you're not, and keep doing them and make it a priority. Because if you're not doing things to be happy, why are you doing them?
Speaking to me on a soul level, I'm all about that.
If you're looking for a new job, or you're changing, or you're going to the gym, or whatever you're doing, if the end result is not that you're going to be happier, then why are you even doing it?
Exactly. So where can we find you online and get your book?
So you can get the book at all of the sort of major online places you get books. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, all that sort of stuff. If you like indie bookshops, I think it's indiebooks.com or bookshop.org, all those website type things. If you want to follow me online, I have an Instagram account called Be As Happy As Your Dog. And I also have a Facebook page called Be As Happy As Your Dog, and I'm in both places pretty regularly, so check it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's a wrap for today's episode. Huge thank you to Michelle for being here today. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe and share your thoughts with us in the comments, and send this to your child-free friends. If you want to connect with me on social, all the places, I'm Productively Child Free. And remember, you're not alone. Until next time, stay amazing and live life your way.